Lane, I've been going to this high school for 7.5 years. I'm no dummy.
Better Off Dead, a movie from 1985, directed by Savage Steve Holland and starring John Cusack. This movie is about teenager Lane Meyer gets broken up with by his girlfriend of 6 months, Beth, and he down spirals, thinking that there's nothing to live for. The movie starts off with him waking up and he's getting ready for ski tryouts. Also shows his dad waking up because he realizes that this time of the morning the paperboy comes and he's like rushing to open the garage door because the paperboy has broken like every window except one of the door. So he's like rushing down to try to open it. So when the paperboy finally comes, he's like throws the paper and just misses the window. So he's like, "Ha ha, I got you." And then he closes the garage door back, but unfortunately, like the door shuts too quick and it breaks the last window. Then shows the rest of his family in the kitchen, and his mom, who's like a really awful cook, is serving like boiled bacon because she knew that he didn't like bacon grease from the stove. And like she just cooks really bizarre stuff throughout the whole movie. So his dad's asking like, "Hey, what's Lane doing up so early anyway? It's a Saturday." And she tells him that he's going to ski tryouts with his girlfriend Beth. And of course his dad's just like, "Ugh, he's so obsessed with her."
Sure, he's going up with Beth. You can't do anything without that girl. I tell you, Jenny, that boy is obsessed.
As Lane is leaving, we notice a girl across the street. She's looking at him, and it's Monique. She's a French foreign exchange student staying with the Smiths. And it's a mother and son, and son's name is Ricky, and he's like a real creepy weirdo. Lane is on his way to the tryouts, and he stops at a red light, and who pulls up next to him are these brothers, and one of them like sounds exactly like Howard Cosell. They do this throughout the whole movie. They try to like race him like at the red light. So as soon as the light turns green, they speed off and he accidentally pushes like in reverse and hits the car behind him.
Ah!
It's an awesome spectacle. An audacious display of seething opponents.
So it doesn't end well. And then we see Beth. She's on the phone with her friend and she's waiting for Lane to pick her up. And she's telling the friend that she plans to break up with him because she's got her eye on this guy, Roy, who we see in just a moment. So Roy is the star skier who's apparently skied the K-12, which is like the highest, most dangerous mountain to ski, and he survived, and so he's like a badass. Beth is drooling over this guy.
You'll make a fine little helper. What's your name?
Charles DeMar?
Shut up, geek. What's your name? My favorite name.
So Lane goes ahead and tries out on the team, but he doesn't make it. And on top of that, Beth goes ahead and breaks up with him. So after 6 months, like, he thinks his life is over. Later that night, Lane comes home and his mom asks him, like, "Oh, how was your day?" And he's like, "Beth broke up with me." And she's like, "Oh, that's nice," because she's not really listening. And then comes his first attempt at the unaliving, but fortunately he is unsuccessful at it. And the next day he is with his friend Charles, and he tells him, "Well, hey, if I ski the Cape 12, Beth will take me back." And the next day he's just kind of moping around the house, like wondering, like, what did he do to deserve this? And 6 months, how could she throw away 6 months? And, he's just sitting there about to have breakfast, which I really think is cat food. And then he gets a knock on the door.
It's
$2 cash.
See, the problem here is that my little brother this morning got his arm caught in the microwave, and my grandmother dropped acid and she freaked out and hijacked a school bus full of penguins. So it's kind of a family crisis. So come back later, great.
Later at school, he's seen in math class, and every student in there is fully engaged at what the teacher's saying. They are super excited about everything that he's talking about. And he wants all the students to like whip out last night's assignment, and they're all whipping out like complicated like portfolios full of like notes and all this stuff. And of course Lane's the only one that like didn't do his assignment. The teacher then points to a few students to show their work on the chalkboard. So everyone's just raising their hands like, me, please pick me. And so, of course, one of the ones who's not raising their hand is Lane. So he, surely enough, picks him to go show his work at the blackboard. But while he's up there, Beth is actually standing next to him and she's writing her little math problem, whatever. And then he starts daydreaming about one of the dates they've had. And so, like, you know, when he snaps out of it, of course, like the classroom's behind him and he's just like, sorry. But then class is dismissed, so everyone's leaving, and you know, Charles stops him like again, and he's just like, hey, you know what? Why don't you pick up your saxophone? Because that'll really drive girls wild. And so he says that Roy plays the guitar, and so that gives Lane an idea. Later in the cafeteria, he's just drawing like a little doodle, and like the doodle starts talking back to him, like the girl as Beth, and you know, she's telling him what a loser he is and he can't get anybody else. And during that same time, he noticed one of the cheerleaders walking in with the whole basketball team. And he's just like, I could ask her out. And so the drawing's telling him like, no, you can't. You're such a loser. And so he's just like, you know, oh yeah, I'll prove you wrong. So he goes up to the cheerleader and tries to hit on her, but it does not end well. Like he ends up slipping and he like rips off her whole like cheerleading outfit, and so of course the basketball team comes after him and beats the crap out of him. Then after school he's attempting again to unalive himself, but Charles rides up to him and tries to give him some encouraging words.
Oh, buck up, little camper. We'll beat that slope together.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm right behind you, buddy.
His first attempt at the K-12, he's up there, he goes down it, and unfortunately he tumbles all the way down, so he doesn't make it. And then it fast forwards to Christmas, and so it shows the family like downstairs, and of course like his mom bought nothing but TV dinners for everybody. And meanwhile Lane is super depressed. He's actually like in the car, like with the garage door down, just being super depressed about Beth still. And his dad's Christmas present to his mom is that he took her downstairs to show the garage door and all the windows are repaired. And of course, right at that time, Lane hits the reverse of the car and crashes through the door. And so like everything's broken again. Then fast forwards again to a New Year's Eve like school dance. And I don't know what school this was, but I know every school dance I was ever at was not this awesome and like fun. Of course, everyone's having a good time but Lane. So he ends up like leaving early, and who follows him is Monique. So she like runs up to him, and they have like their first like meet cute. So Lane's trying to talk to her, but like she's only speaking French. So he's just like, oh, you don't speak English. And then they're like shortly, like they're interrupted by Ricky. He pulls her away. So then after that, he's walking to his car, and then he's approached by someone. Later, we see Lane at a burger joint because the owner of this place is the car that he hit. So he's telling him he's got to work it off. And after he's left alone, he has like this fantasy like about the burgers coming to life and rocking out. And so he's like goofing off majorly. And so later when the owner comes to check on him, there's food everywhere. The burger patties are burned. And so he gets thrown out. And at the same time, he gets humiliated because Roy and Beth are sitting right there. So the next day, his second attempt at the K-12, but again, he fails. And then that night, he attempts again at unaliving. He goes to the garage and gets like a jar of primer. And on his way to his room, he's stopped by his mom. and they have like the Smiths over, and they're actually all about to have dinner. So she's just like, "Where are you going, Lane? Sit with us for dinner." So he sits down at the table, and so the mom's just kind of like introducing everybody to each other, and then she's got a bunch of like special foods.
French fries. And French dressing. And French bread.
Meyer's dad is asking Monique questions, but she's just staring at him. And Miss Smith tells him, like, she doesn't speak any English, so there's no use. But you don't need to speak English if you speak the language of love, and insinuates that her and Ricky have something going, which grosses out Lane. And then she's actually pouring some of that primer of his into her glass because she thinks it's moonshine. And then shortly after, she lights up a cigarette, and boom. And then the next day, they're on their way to school, and he's with Monique and Ricky, and he's like, "Sorry, your mom blew up." And then, like, at the red light, sure enough, those brothers approach next to them, wanting to race. And so they get started with another race, but he ends up swerving and goes into a ditch. Later, they're shown at the cafeteria. Lane and Monique are sitting together, and then Roy approaches Monique, and he starts flirting with her, and she ends up shaking her soda on him, and so he gets all pissed off. And so that's when, like, stuff gets escalated, and like talks shit about Monique, and then that pisses Lane off.
Chicken?
What did you say?
Anytime, you name it.
Oh, Meyer. You're digging your own grave.
No one has to know, just me and you.
Sunday. High noon.
You're on.
Just in. Lane Meyer will be racing Royce down K-12 this Sunday at 12 noon.
The next day, Monique notices a Camaro sitting in his driveway, and he tells her that it's his, but he hasn't been able to get it started in months. And so, on his way to practice again at the K-12, the paper boy is on top of his car, banging on his windshield, demanding $2. And so the only way to get rid of him is he drives it through a car wash. And so he's like, "No, I can't swim." And then later that night, he goes home. He sees Monique, and she's like throwing oranges at a sign. So he goes over to her, and he's like, "Hey, is there anything wrong?" Like, but she's not answering him. And so just as he's about to walk away, she speaks. And it turns out she knows English this whole time, but she chooses not to, so she doesn't have to engage with, like, creepy Ricky and his mom.
Instead, he uses a chance to put his testicles all over me.
His what?
How you say, octopus, testicles.
Tentacles. NT. Tentacles.
Tentacles.
There's a big difference.
She asks him if he could keep her secret of knowing English, and so he's like, "No problem." The next day, he's out on his driveway. He notices that Monique's working on the Camaro, and he's like, "Hey, it's no use. It's a piece of junk." She starts the car for him, and so he's like impressed, like, "Oh my God, how did you do that?" And so they end up working on the car together, and then a little bit after, it's up and running. Take it for a spin, and then of course at the red light, those brothers are next to him, and then Lane ends up beating them. And then later that night, they had this cute little date, and they're having like TV dinners, and he whips out that saxophone and starts playing like a romantic song to her, and it's just a good night. And then the next day, they're out on the slopes because she wants to teach him some skiing lessons, and there's like a montage of them skiing around, and like, she's actually teaching him like how to be like better. And so they have a good day there. And then later that day, they're approached by Charles, and Charles like reminds him like, "Hey, don't forget to meet Roy at the K-12 like at noon." And so as he's skiing off, like, he runs over one of Lane's skis.
I want my $2.
So he's trying to get away from the paper boy, and then he ends up at the start line where he and Roy were supposed to start their race. And so, Roy's just like, you don't know when to quit." And so, like, they start their race. So they're going down the K-12, and of course the paper boy is like not too far behind. And so Roy gets distracted, and somehow he swats at the paperboy, and like he ends up riding off a cliff. And so they're finishing their race, they're going down, and that's when Charles notices on the binoculars that Lane is only on one ski. So it's a long way down, but on one ski he ends up winning the race.
Nice try.
Get lost.
Lane notices the Smiths dragging Monique away, and so he runs over to stop Ricky, and so they get into a little fight, but eventually he wins, and so he takes Monique away. They drive off in his Camaro, and then they live happily ever after. And I know I left some stuff out, but that's pretty much the end of the movie, and this is like easily one of my top 10 movies like ever. And I loved this movie. I've watched it all the time. I also like One Crazy Summer. That was the movie that Savage Steve Holland directed after this one, and it also stars John Cusack and Demi Moore. And knowing the humor behind this director's like work, it's so fun. Like I love it. It doesn't take itself seriously. It's got like these crazy bizarre moments that's like normalized in this world, and that's why I like it so much. But if anyone else has seen it, leave a comment below. I know I forgot some stuff, but you know, let me know what you love about this movie. I would love to hear from you.
No. I'll see you all tomorrow. Just remember to memorize pages 39 to 110 for tomorrow's lesson. All right.